Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How many moments of real love have you missed while waiting for the perfect one? How many good hearts have you overlooked because they didn't fit the fantasy you built in your mind? We've been sold this idea that somewhere out there, one flawless person will show up and make everything make sense. But what if that belief is the very reason you keep ending up disappointed? What if the one isn't someone you find, but someone you build through real effort, real connection, and real love? And ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that has romanticized the idea of the one, so much that it has quietly poisoned how we love, how we choose, and how we wait. We've been told that somewhere out there is this one magical person, a soulmate who will recognize us instantly, understand us completely, and love us unconditionally without effort. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But that story, that fantasy, can be one of the most dangerous traps we fall into when it comes to love and fulfillment. Because when you spend your life holding out for the one, you may be waiting for a perfection that doesn't exist, while the opportunity for real connection passes you by. And we love the idea of fate. It gives us comfort. It gives us an excuse to wait. When the right person comes along, I'll know. When it's meant to be, it will just happen. But that mindset makes us passive in one of the most active parts of life. Love isn't something that just happens to you, it's something you create. And if you're holding out for someone who will just slide perfectly into your life like a missing puzzle piece, you're forgetting that even the best relationships are built, not found. The truth is, the one isn't a person you discover. It's a person you choose and keep choosing over and over again through the real, imperfect moments of life. And the danger in waiting for the one is that it convinces you that anything less than a perfect spark isn't worth your time. You meet someone kind, but you don't feel fireworks, so you dismiss them. You meet someone stable, but they don't fit the fairytale image you've built, so you move on. And what happens? You end up chasing a feeling instead of building a bond. You become addicted to the high of connection, the thrill of newness, the fantasy of what it could be, and you lose sight of what makes a relationship last. Love is not about constant butterflies, it's about consistent effort. It's not about finding someone who completes you, it's about finding someone who complements you. And when you hold out for the one, you unconsciously begin to treat love like a prize instead of a practice. You wait for it to arrive rather than becoming the kind of person who is ready to give and receive it. And that's the real danger, because in waiting for that mythical person, you miss your own growth. You miss the lessons that come from trying, from failing, from caring deeply even when it hurts. Every person you meet teaches you something about yourself, what you want, what you need, what you still have to work on. But if you're constantly looking past the people in front of you, waiting for someone better, you never truly engage with the ones who could actually make a difference in your life. And you see, the idea of the one gives us permission to be picky without purpose. We confuse standards with fantasy. It's good to have standards to want kindness, respect, honesty, ambition, but the fantasy of the one makes you chase perfection instead of depth. You tell yourself you're waiting for someone who's right for you, when really you're waiting for someone who doesn't exist. Real love doesn't check every box you've written down in your head. It challenges you. It surprises you. It makes you grow in ways you didn't plan for. It's messy, complicated, and beautifully imperfect. and that's what makes it real. And so many people end up lonely not because they couldn't find love, but because they refused to accept love that didn't match their fantasy. They walked away from something real because it didn't look like what they imagined. They wanted connection without compromise, intimacy without vulnerability, and chemistry without effort. But the truth is, every great relationship has moments that test your patience, moments where you question everything, moments that require forgiveness and communication and humility. Those moments don't mean you've chosen wrong, they mean you're human and you're in something real. And the danger of waiting for the one is also that it puts all the power outside of you. You start believing that your happiness depends on meeting someone else. You think love is something you'll finally get once you find the right person. But love isn't something you find, it's something you become. You attract what you are ready for. If you're waiting for someone to bring happiness into your life, you'll always be waiting. But when you become happy, grounded, and fulfilled on your own, you naturally draw people who reflect that energy back to you. The real secret is that when you stop looking for the one, you create the space for someone real to appear, not a fantasy, but a person who can meet you where you are. And think about this. If you met your dream partner today, would you be ready for them? Would you have the patience, the communication skills, the emotional maturity to sustain that connection? Because if the answer is no, then it's not about finding the one. It's about becoming someone who can build the one kind of relationship. Love doesn't show up when you're perfect. It shows up when you're practicing. It meets you in the middle of your mess and says, let's build something beautiful anyway. But that can only happen if you stop holding out for someone to rescue you from your own story. And the truth is, there are many people you could build a beautiful life with if you're willing to do the work. There isn't just one person who could make you happy. There are countless possibilities that could bring out different versions of you. The real question isn't who is the one. It's who brings out the best in me, who makes me want to grow, who makes me feel safe to be myself. Those are the questions that build lasting love, not who gives me butterflies every second of the day. Because butterflies fade, but respect, communication, and emotional safety, those things deepen. And if you keep holding out for the one, you'll always feel like love is just around the corner, never in your hands. You'll measure every person by an impossible standard. You'll forget that even the happiest couples had to build what they have. You'll waste time chasing the illusion of certainty instead of embracing the magic of reality. Love isn't about finding someone flawless. It's about finding someone who's willing to build with you through the flaws. And here's the most important part: when you let go of the fantasy, you don't settle, you see clearly. You stop searching for perfect and start appreciating present. You stop waiting for fate to deliver happiness and start realizing that happiness has been something you could choose all along. Love is not a movie scene. It's not the grand gestures or the perfect timing. It's the quiet moments, the laughter after an argument, the comfort in a long silence, the shared look that says, "We're in this together." That's love. And it's not about finding the one. It's about recognizing that the person who chooses you, who stays, who grows with you, they become the one because you both decide to make it so. And when you stop chasing the fantasy of the one, something incredible begins to happen. You start seeing people for who they really are, not who you wish they would be. You start appreciating the quiet consistency of someone who shows up, even when it's not glamorous. You start noticing the small things, the patience, the understanding, the way someone listens when you speak. And you begin to realize that those things, those steady acts of care, are the foundation of something much stronger than the illusion of perfection. Because love doesn't live in grand gestures or movie moments. It lives in the everyday choices two people make to show up for each other, even when it's inconvenient, even when life gets messy. And we've been taught to romanticize the idea of instant connection, that when it's right, you'll just know. But that belief can make you blind to the truth that the best connections often grow slowly through time and effort. Sometimes the person who's meant to change your life doesn't sweep you off your feet in one night. They earn your trust over weeks, months, years of consistency. The magic of real love isn't in the intensity of the beginning. It's in the depth of the bond that builds through shared experiences. It's in the way you grow to love someone not just for who they are, but for who you become together. And when you keep waiting for that instant spark, you might miss the person who could have actually been perfect for you, not because of fireworks, but because of compatibility, respect, and shared values. You might overlook the person who would have built a solid foundation with you, someone who doesn't just make you feel excited, but makes you feel safe. Excitement fades, safety lasts, and if you've ever experienced real love, you know that safety, emotional, mental, and spiritual, is the most intoxicating feeling of all. And the problem with holding out for the one is that it encourages you to wait instead of participate. You begin to act like love is something that happens to you rather than something you get to co-create. You might find yourself saying, "I'll put myself out there when the right person shows up," or "I'll trust again when I meet someone who deserves it." But that's like saying you'll learn to swim once you're already in calm water. Love doesn't reward passivity. It rewards courage. It rewards vulnerability. It rewards the people who are brave enough to show up with an open heart, even after it's been bruised. And you might have been hurt before, and because of that, you tell yourself that the one will make it easy. That the right person won't make you question, won't make you doubt, won't make you feel afraid again. But real love doesn't erase fear, it gives you a reason to face it. The right relationship doesn't mean you'll never feel insecure, it means you'll feel safe enough to talk about it. It doesn't mean there won't be conflict, it means you'll have someone who wants to resolve it with you. The danger of the perfect one, a myth, is that it teaches us to run at the first sign of discomfort rather than to grow through it. And we all have this fantasy that love should feel effortless, but effort isn't a sign that something's wrong, it's a sign that something's real. Anything worth having takes work. The happiest couples aren't those who never fight or never disagree. They're the ones who are committed to learning each other over and over again. They know that people change, seasons shift, and that love is a living thing. It needs attention, understanding, and communication to thrive. Holding out for the one can make you forget that relationships are supposed to stretch you. They're meant to teach you how to love better, not just how to feel better. And you may think you're protecting your heart by waiting for someone flawless, but often you're protecting yourself from the very experiences that would make your heart stronger. Growth never comes from standing still. It comes from showing up, risking something, and discovering that you can survive even when it doesn't work out. Every heartbreak refines your standards, sharpens your self-awareness, and reveals what truly matters to you. But none of that growth can happen if you stay stuck waiting for a fantasy to knock on your door. And sometimes the one isn't a person you meet. It's a person you become through the process of loving and losing, of trying and failing. It's through those experiences that you evolve into someone capable of sustaining the kind of connection you've always dreamed of. Because no matter how amazing the person beside you is, if you haven't done the inner work, you won't be able to receive that love fully. You'll question it, sabotage it, or dismiss it because it doesn't fit the script in your head. That's why the most important thing you can do while waiting for love is to build a life that feels complete on your own. Become someone so fulfilled, so grounded, that when love arrives, it enhances your life, it doesn't define it. And the truth is, when you're whole on your own, you stop waiting for someone to complete you. You stop putting the pressure of your happiness on another person's shoulders. You start loving out of abundance, not out of lack. You stop asking, will they choose me? And start asking, are they a good fit for the life I'm already building? And that shift changes everything, because when you come from a place of strength, you no longer chase people, you attract them. You no longer settle for crumbs of attention, you expect effort. You no longer mistake drama for passion, you crave peace. That's the power of letting go of the one and focusing instead on the right energy. And we often say we want love, but what we really want is peace, security, and emotional connection. We want someone who sees us, values us, and shows up for us. But those qualities aren't exclusive to one person. There are many people out there capable of loving deeply, of building something beautiful with you, but you'll only find them if you're willing to look beyond the fantasy. When you stop searching for perfection, you start recognizing potential. When you stop waiting for someone to prove they're meant to be, you start building something that actually is. And maybe the reason you haven't found lasting love yet isn't because the one isn't out there. It's because you've been filtering out everyone who doesn't match a script that was never real to begin with. Maybe the universe has been sending you opportunities for love, but you've been too focused on the image of how it's supposed to look, to see what's right in front of you. What if love doesn't look like instant fireworks? What if it looks like peace after chaos, laughter after pain, trust after fear? What if the one isn't about the person who gives you butterflies, but the one who gives you roots? And the world will tell you that you're settling if you accept less than perfection. But settling isn't choosing real over fantasy. Settling is convincing yourself that love has to be flawless to be fulfilling. The relationships that go the distance aren't the ones that start with the biggest spark. They're the ones that are fueled by mutual effort, communication, and shared values. You can't wait for that to appear, you have to build it. And to build it, you have to be brave enough to try, to be vulnerable, to take off the armor that waiting has wrapped around your heart. And so many people waste years in limbo, half open to love, half afraid of disappointment. They tell themselves they're waiting for the right person, but really, they're waiting for certainty, for a guarantee that it won't hurt again. But love doesn't come with guarantees. The only certainty you have is your ability to show up, to give, to learn, to heal. The more you embrace that, the more alive your relationships become. And there's a quiet power in saying, I'm done waiting, because when you stop waiting for the one, you start living for yourself. You start opening your heart to the real, messy, imperfect beauty of human connection. You start realizing that love isn't something that happens once in a lifetime. It's something that happens every time two people are brave enough to try again. You stop chasing fate and start choosing effort, and that's where the magic begins. And because in the end, it's not about finding the one. It's about finding someone who's willing to build one life with you through the laughter, through the storms, through the mundane moments in between. And that kind of love doesn't come from waiting. It comes from courage. It comes from choosing to see love not as a miracle that appears, but as a masterpiece you create, one act of effort, one act of patience, one act of love at a time. And when you finally understand that love is built, not found, you begin to live differently. You stop scanning every room, hoping the universe will drop a miracle into your lap. You stop analyzing every glance, every message, every coincidence, trying to decode whether this person is the one. Instead, you start showing up fully as yourself, not as someone performing worthiness, not as someone waiting to be chosen, but as someone already whole. You begin to enjoy meeting people again, because now it's not about finding perfection, it's about connection. It's about discovering who brings peace into your chaos, who makes your world expand instead of shrink, who adds meaning to your ordinary days. And you start realizing that what makes love beautiful isn't destiny, it's devotion. It's when two people decide to keep showing up for each other, even when the initial spark fades, even when life gets heavy. It's when you choose kindness over ego, when you choose patience over pride. That's the real miracle of love, not that two souls were destined to meet, but that they stay when it would be easier to leave. The danger of waiting for the one is that you keep chasing a beginning instead of building a middle. You keep wanting the thrill of being chosen instead of the calm of being understood. And the truth is, you could meet someone who checks every box, who looks perfect on paper, who says all the right things and still not find peace. Because peace isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about someone who meets you where you are, not someone who fits the image you built in your mind. When you stop idealizing love and start experiencing it, you see that it's not fragile or fleeting. It's something that grows roots. It's something that teaches you how to stay grounded even when everything else in life is uncertain. And maybe that's why so many people feel lost in love today, because we've confused excitement with connection and fantasy with reality. We've made love about constant validation instead of mutual effort. We scroll, we swipe, we sample. We treat people like possibilities instead of participants. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the deep intimacy that only comes from staying long enough to see the real person behind the perfect image. The person who has flaws, the person who sometimes gets it wrong, the person who's scared just like you. That's where real love begins, not when you find someone flawless, but when you find someone who's willing to grow through their flaws with you. And you don't need the one. You need someone willing to do the work, someone who can communicate instead of withdraw, someone who wants to understand instead of win, someone who can apologize, who can listen, who can stand beside you when life isn't romantic. Love isn't about finding someone who makes everything easy. It's about finding someone who's worth doing the hard things with. Because, let's be honest, life will test every relationship. It will throw you curveballs, stress, distance, and doubt. And when that happens, the one isn't the person who magically fixes it all. It's the person who doesn't run away. And sometimes the most powerful relationships come from the people you didn't expect, the ones who didn't fit your checklist, the ones who didn't look like your type, the ones who didn't arrive when you thought they should. Because love doesn't always look how you imagined it. Sometimes it shows up disguised as friendship. Sometimes it shows up after heartbreak. Sometimes it shows up quietly in the person who stayed when everyone else left. That's why it's so dangerous to wait for the one. Because you might be waiting for a fantasy while reality is standing right in front of you. And the greatest irony is that the moment you stop obsessing over finding the one, you become more magnetic. Because when you let go of the desperation, when you stop searching for someone to complete you, you start radiating confidence and calm. You're not seeking validation anymore, you're offering connection. You're not performing love, you're embodying it. And that kind of energy draws people who are ready for the same. It attracts those who don't want to play games, who value sincerity, who see your depth and want to match it. That's the kind of love that feels natural, not forced, not performed, but real. And if you've ever wondered why your relationships keep ending the same way, it might be because you're still chasing the same story. You might keep choosing people who give you intensity instead of stability, mystery instead of honesty. Because deep down, the idea of the one has made you believe that love should feel dramatic, that if it doesn't make your heart race, it must not be right. But love isn't supposed to make you anxious. It's supposed to make you secure. It's supposed to give you space to breathe, to grow, to be imperfect. The thrill fades, but peace that stays. And it's not that you shouldn't have standards. You should. You deserve someone who's kind, who respects you, who supports your growth. But high standards and impossible fantasies are not the same thing. Standards keep you grounded. Fantasies keep you stuck. Standards are built on values, honesty, loyalty, consistency. Fantasies are built on illusions, perfection, constant passion, unshakable certainty. And while standards protect your heart, fantasies imprison it. Because you'll never find someone who meets an image that was never meant to be real. And every great love story begins with two imperfect people who choose each other, not because they have to, but because they want to. They choose each other even when they disagree, even when they get scared, even when life pulls them in different directions. They choose to show up again, to try again, to listen again. That's what makes love sacred, the choice. The daily decision to invest in something that requires your vulnerability, your patience, your humility. Waiting for the one removes that choice. It convinces you that love should choose you instead of you choosing love. And maybe that's why people who believe in the one often feel powerless in relationships. Because if you believe there's only one person meant for you, then losing them feels like losing everything. But when you understand that love is a partnership, not a prophecy, you realize you have power, you have agency. You get to decide who you open your heart to, who you build with, who you grow beside. That realization frees you because now you're not waiting for love to happen. You're creating it, and you begin to understand that love doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who are ready. ready to give without fear of loss, ready to show up even when they don't have guarantees, ready to communicate even when it's uncomfortable. The kind of love that lasts doesn't require perfection, it requires participation. It requires you to bring your full self, flaws, fears, and all, and trust that someone will meet you there. And maybe, just maybe, that's the truth we've been avoiding all along, that the one isn't waiting for you somewhere out there. The one is the relationship you're willing to nurture. It's the person you grow into when you decide to love courageously instead of perfectly. It's the bond that's built over time through shared laughter, shared silence, shared struggle, because love doesn't need to be destined to be meaningful. It just needs to be chosen again and again, with intention, with patience, with heart. And when you stop waiting and start choosing, you open the door to everything real. You let love surprise you, heal you, challenge you. You stop needing the story to look a certain way, and you start living it. You stop searching for someone to fill your emptiness, and you start sharing your fullness. That's where connection happens, not in destiny, but in decision. Not in waiting for the one, but in becoming one half of something worth building. And because the real danger of holding out for the one isn't that you'll end up alone. It's that you'll miss the life, the love, the growth, and the joy that were always available to you, if only you'd stopped waiting long enough to receive them. And when you finally release the illusion that love must come wrapped in destiny, you begin to see how many chances you've already been given. You start remembering all those small moments, the friend who stayed up late listening to you when you were falling apart, the person who smiled at you with genuine kindness when you thought the world had forgotten you, the person who saw your flaws and didn't flinch. Maybe those weren't accidents. Maybe those were reminders that love has always been around you, just not always in the form you expected. But when you're fixated on finding the one, you miss the beauty of connection that already exists in 1,000 different places. And the truth is, love doesn't always come as a storm. Sometimes it comes as a whisper. It doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up quietly, disguised as comfort, as ease, as calm. But when your mind is addicted to chaos, when you've been taught that passion must equal drama, you might confuse peace for boredom. You might walk away from something stable because it doesn't set your nerves on fire. But real love isn't supposed to burn you. It's supposed to warm you. It's supposed to bring you back home to yourself. The person who truly loves you won't make you question your worth. They'll remind you of it. And you see, the more you chase the fantasy, the further you drift from what's real. The idea of the one tells you that love should complete you. But no one can complete you. They can only complement the person you already are. When you depend on someone else to fill your emptiness, you give them the power to define your happiness. And when they leave, that happiness leaves with them. But when you learn to fill your own life with purpose, passion, and meaning, love becomes a beautiful addition, not your only source of light. And we often think love will fix us, that the right person will heal our pain or make us feel whole again. But no one else can do the healing for you. They can walk beside you, they can hold your hand, they can support you, but they can't rebuild what you refuse to face. The most powerful relationships are the ones built between two people who have faced their own darkness and still choose to love with open hearts. When you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, you become free to build something healthy, something balanced, something true. And when you let go of the fairy tale, you stop looking for someone to save you, and you start looking for someone to grow with you. Someone who's not afraid to be real. Someone who doesn't pretend to have it all together, but is willing to figure it out with you. Because life isn't a straight path, it's unpredictable, it's messy, and it's constantly changing. You need someone who can walk with you through that chaos, not someone who only shows up for the highlight reel. The danger of waiting for the one is that you might mistake perfection for readiness, but what you really need is presence. Someone who's here now, willing to try, to listen, to stay. And maybe that's what real love asks of us, not to wait for a person who fits a mold, but to become the kind of person who can love deeply, honestly, and without fear. Because when you love with depth, when you communicate openly, when you show up authentically, you attract people who do the same. You create relationships that are rooted in truth, not fantasy. And those relationships, even if they don't last forever, will transform you in ways that no dream version of love ever could. And the longer you hold onto the idea of the one, the more you delay your own evolution. Because that myth keeps you trapped in a mindset of scarcity, as if love is rare, as if connection is luck, as if happiness is something you have to wait for instead of something you can create. But the world is full of people who can love you, who can challenge you, who can bring out your best, if only you allow yourself to see them. Love is abundant, it's everywhere. The more you give it, the more you attract it. But the moment you limit it to one person, one story, one ideal, you shrink your own possibilities. And think about how many opportunities you've had to build connection, but didn't, all because you were too focused on who wasn't there instead of appreciating who was. Maybe you've walked away from someone because they didn't make you feel the spark right away, or because they didn't match the picture in your mind. But what if love is less about sparks and more about security? What if it's less about grand gestures and more about quiet consistency? What if it's less about being swept off your feet and more about learning how to stand side by side, grounded and secure? And love isn't found in a moment, it's found in the accumulation of moments. It's built through time, through small choices that say, I see you, I value you, I'm here. The fantasy of the one can make you overlook the person who's willing to do those things because you're too busy waiting for a story that was never meant to be yours. You keep asking for love to show up with a bang when it's been knocking softly all along. And when you release the fantasy, you free yourself to experience love in all its forms: friendship, kindness, connection, partnership, even self-love. You realize that you don't have to wait for romance to feel loved. You can live in love every day by how you treat people, how you give, how you show up. Love stops being something you chase and becomes something you embody. And when you live in that energy, you naturally attract relationships that reflect it. And people who are waiting for the one often forget that attraction isn't just about chemistry, it's about compatibility, communication, and shared vision. You can have chemistry with many people. Chemistry is easy. Compatibility takes time, effort, and honesty. And it's through those things that you build a connection that actually lasts. The person who makes you feel alive in a moment may not be the person who helps you thrive in a lifetime. That's why you have to stop asking, is this my soulmate? And start asking, can I build a healthy, joyful, peaceful life with this person? And there's a kind of peace that comes when you stop looking for love to prove something, to prove that you're desirable, that you're enough, that you're worthy. Because you already are. When you know your worth, you stop auditioning for love. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop mistaking effort for desperation. Instead, you start attracting people who recognize your value without you having to convince them. The person meant for you won't make you feel like you have to perform to earn their love. They'll simply appreciate who you are. And that's the most beautiful part, when you finally realize that you don't need the one. You stop fearing the loss of love. You stop clinging. You stop overanalyzing. You stop trying to control how it unfolds. You start allowing love to come and go naturally, trusting that what's meant for you will always align with who you're becoming. You understand that every person you meet is either a lesson or a blessing, and often they're both. Every connection, no matter how short or long, adds something to your story. It shapes you, strengthens you, softens you. And when you stop waiting for love to be perfect, you begin to live in gratitude for what it is, a living, breathing exchange between two imperfect people who are trying their best. You stop chasing validation and start choosing appreciation. You stop trying to force the timing and start trusting the process. And in that space, love finds you naturally, not because you were waiting, but because you were ready. And the truth is, there's no single person who holds the key to your happiness. You hold that key. The relationships you create are reflections of the relationship you have with yourself. When you treat yourself with compassion, with patience, with honesty, you attract people who do the same. When you love yourself enough not to settle for chaos, you attract peace. When you respect yourself enough to communicate your needs, you attract understanding. You don't need to search the world for the one. You need to align with the kind of love that matches the person you're becoming. And as you do, you'll find that love isn't a single destination. It's a journey, a constant unfolding. A daily choice to see beauty in imperfection, to forgive, to grow, to give, to receive. It's not about the one person who changes your life. It's about the moments that teach you what love really means. And when you finally grasp that, you stop waiting, you stop searching, and you start living fully, deeply, and without fear.